Welcome to Recently on Reddit, a Tiny Black Panther production. Here we explore some eye-catching posts from a number of popular subreddits. This is sort of an intro to Reddit because, trust me, there's a lot more waiting out there to be discovered. Did you know that the word dreamt and its variations are the only words in the English language that end with the letters M and T? That's today's somewhat useless fact, and let's get on with the show. And our first story today comes from r/pettyrevenge, posted by Hardcore 90s Skid. They parked in my spot that I pay for, so I blocked them in all day. In my complex, we have specifically assigned spots that you have to pay for. This person, I guess, doesn't want to pay for a spot, so they park on the street all the time. It's doable, but a huge pain in the butt since you can't leave it overnight without notice from management. The first time they had done this, I confronted them as I happened to catch them as they were getting out of their car. They claimed they lived in the townhouse right next to my spot, but that someone had parked there, so they parked in my spot. That would make sense to me if I'd ever seen their car parked in that spot before, and that car that was there wasn't there all the time anyway. Also, the owner of the car was screaming at me while their friend was the calm one. I was fed up because other strangers had parked in my spot before, making me have to park out on the street. For context, yes, we do have garage doors, as it's an underground parking, but management has never gotten around to making them operational for some reason. So this same person eventually parked in my spot once again, and I was done. Normally I'd just call security and they'd come to threaten to tow the car, but because it's COVID, they're not sending out people unless it's a serious situation. So I happily parked my car right behind theirs. Luckily I own a tiny car, so it's small enough to fit effectively and double park, but still leave enough room for big SUVs to get by in our underground parking. I left a note on my car saying, "Note to management/security. Car with license blah 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 parked in my spot. I'll be out of town until tomorrow. If any problems, call me with the number on file." Of course I wasn't out of town at all. Then I came back, went out for a day to give them time to get their car, and I have never seen it parked in my spot since, only on the street. I don't know why you would continuously block in somebody and then just leave your car, because that, honestly, they could just do this to you anytime. You're pretty much leaving yourself at the mercy of the person you've just wronged. And our next one is kind of a long one from r/pettyrevenge as well, posted by GranetBlanco. Lie about having COVID to take 6 weeks off while I do your work for free? I'll throw an all-office party to announce where you really were. Mid-pandemic, my boss disappeared. Just as we were gearing up for our most challenging, time-intensive project in the last 5 years, he dropped off the face of the earth. We kept working for a week or so without him because everything was virtual and the virtual work world was still so new, we really didn't need him. We were delegating tasks ourselves and completing things on our own. We spoke to coworkers maybe twice a week. But some decisions were beyond our discretion, so we could not move forward on those aspects of the project until we received a response from him. After about 7 to 10 days of total silence, we called his boss's boss, who informed our team that our boss had COVID, so he wasn't able to work right now. We took that at face value, of course, and sent him letters of well wishes and didn't bother him with work stuff, or ask why he was able to notify his boss, but not us. 3 weeks go by, still not a word. We're beginning to discuss amongst ourselves whether or not he's maybe died. We're terrified and horrified and so concerned. We're contemplating calling his extended family. We're sending flowers and care packages to his apartment. Meanwhile, the project has descended into chaos because no leader was appointed in our boss's stead, so we are forced to navigate several layers of bureaucracy in order to accomplish anything at all, whereas in the past he would have just signed off in real time. Around week 4 or 5, one of our coworkers suggested he really doesn't have COVID, but is instead using it as an excuse to take time off. We all jump all over our coworker, asking how he could insinuate something like that, and lamenting about what a tragedy our boss is probably living through. People were chilly to him for days after that. Week 7, we're undertaking a letter writing campaign to upper management demanding an acting boss be appointed while ours is recovering. The project is a month behind schedule. We're all working overtime every day, sometimes on weekends without extra compensation, just to keep up with the clusterfluff of the boss's sudden absence. Week 8. He finally appears, logging into a morning meeting as though nothing happened. He looks well rested, well fed, and has a tan. Not at all like someone who's come out of the other side of a 6-week respiratory virus. He says something quickly to the effect of, "Yeah, that was brutal. Glad to be better and glad to be back. Let's get to work." But doesn't want to talk about what happened or answer any of our questions like, "Were you in the hospital? What was it like?" etc. Fast forward to about 4 or 5 months after this. My sister sends me a promo for a fairly new reality show. I'd never heard of it, but it's on a pretty major platform and says, "Isn't this guy a friend of yours or something? I swear I've seen him and you together." I watched the trailer for this show, and lo and behold, there's my boss, participating as a contestant on a reality TV show. It did not take long for me to put the pieces together and realize he took extended leave to go on TV that he knew he wouldn't otherwise get during this massive project, and lied about it under the guise of a vicious disease that nearly all of us had lost a loved one to. I sit and stew with this information, unsure of how to handle it. I know confronting him won't get me very far, but I can't just do nothing, right? I'm not close enough with any of my colleagues to discuss this with them, and I trust that they wouldn't run off and send an all-company email about it. So I slept on it for a few nights, and then the opportunity fell right in my lap. I got an email from corporate encouraging teams still working remotely to plan virtual social functions to keep a collegial culture going and to stay in touch. Amongst the suggestions were game night, trivia, and watch party. With the premiere of the show only a couple of weeks away, I got busy telling everyone how I'd been meaning to get into this show, and it's so enticing and exciting, basically laying the groundwork to guilt them into coming to an impromptu virtual watch party off hours. I offered to get special shirts made up and send them to each person's house, whatever I had to do to get the attention of corporate. Finally, I sent an evite to all my boss's bosses and any other members of corporate I could justify inviting without making a total A of myself. Because this is entirely virtual, my boss is unable to overhear any of the chatter. He doesn't realize I'm hyping up this show, and he doesn't realize I've planned a watch party for it. I wasn't inviting him unless he had the balls to explicitly ask about it. I was hoping he wouldn't have heard about it at all, not until afterwards. That was really the only way this could work. The night comes, and I'm screen sharing the show to a whopping 64 people, a huge chunk of my department. Many members of corporate had showed up because I was the only person stupid enough to buy into their virtual social work party scheme, so they felt pressured to support it. I was holding my breath, hoping this would go my way, bracing myself for some kind of curveball. But there wasn't even that dramatic of a build-up. Right at the outset, they introduced the premise, which included the contestants being in a COVID-safe bubble in an exotic location, and gave a brief overview of each contestant. As my boss was introduced, right down to what he did for work, and I could see people register delight and surprise, then go blank, just before sliding into the confusion and rage. The chat took a drastic turn from, "Oh my goodness," and "I knew him when," and all sorts of pithy jokes to a brave member of my team, or perhaps just one pushed a tad too far by all the extra hours he pulled in the douche's absence, sent the message, "Wait, when was this film?" My audience dropped from 64 to 58 to mid-30s, and by the time the episode was over, it was just me and the other 15 core members of the team. One asked if I had already known, but some members of the team are very close to the boss, so all I said was, "Well, I definitely do now," and wrapped up the call pretty quickly after that. Perhaps one of the best bonuses is that you could already tell from episode 1 that the character arc the show assigned to our boss was bumbling idiot. He had his true colors in full display, and some production massaging up them to the 11th degree. Boss was fired. My good buddy was promoted in his place. I am an office legend now, especially since no one is 100% sure whether or not it was intentional. And it was all so satisfying that it was almost worth the dozens of hours of uncompensated overtime that led to it. Edit. Title should be 8 weeks. I kept not factoring in the first couple of weeks because we weren't suspicioned or burdened until the final 6. I don't even know what to say other than I'm sure this is not the first or the last example of people doing this because of COVID. So, you may be wondering about that random fact in the beginning. It occurs to us here at Tiny Black Panther Productions that everyone can use a little random knowledge, and we like to share ours. So, if you have any random tidbits you'd like to share with the world, please drop them in the comments below. I'll read out some of those facts in future episodes at random. Please just be sure they're accurate. Thank you for joining us on Recently on Reddit. Please comment, like, and subscribe. All comments will be read and considered, as it's my goal to get better at entertaining you. Again, thanks for watching, and bye-bye for now.